I wanted to do a quick video on Abraham chapter 3. Listen, the more I read it, the more I think we misunderstand it. There's been this narrative, at least the story in my life that I've always heard, and it goes like this. Before we came to this earth, we were all in the spirit world. And God was presenting a plan for us to come to earth. And God said, "Whom shall I send?" And the story I've heard is that Jesus raised his hand and said, "Hey, send me." And then another, who we understand to be Lucifer, what we understand to be Jesus's brother, says, no, send me. And God says, "I'll send the first." But what I'm about to read to you is not that narrative. What I'm going to read is the words and what the words say, not what the narrative is. And I think it's time we start reading the words rather than listening to some narrative that doesn't coincide with what the words say. So let's just read the words. I'm going to start in Abraham chapter 3, verse 22. It says, "Now the Lord had shown unto me, Abraham, the intelligences that were organized before the world was. And among all these, there were many of the noble and great ones." It's a really powerful statement right there. Many noble and great ones. Before the world was. Which means that there were people that were noble and great. First off, how do you become noble and great if you haven't lived on a world? So what this is saying is, before this world was organized, there were a lot of people that were noble and great. Which means through the eons of time, they've had experiences, they've had agency, they've made choices that have caused them to be noble and great. So one of the things that tells me is, hey, we've been doing this for a very, very long time. Now, this may be our first time here on this earth, but we have had experiences in so many other worlds that could make us noble and great. Let's continue to read verse 23. "And God," who's God? Well, some call him the Elohim, but it says God. "And God saw these souls that they were good, and he stood in the midst of them. And he said, These I will make my rulers, for he stood among those that were spirits." So we've got God standing in the middle of all these noble and great ones that at this moment in time are in the spirit form. "And he saw that they were good. And he said unto me, Abraham, thou art one of them. Thou wast chosen before thou wast born." That's kind of cool. So Abraham was in the middle of all these noble and great ones. God says, "Abraham, you were there. You were chosen before you were born." Verse 24. "And there stood one among them that was like unto God." Well, who is the most like unto God? Certainly Jehovah, which we understand to be Jesus Christ. So you have one like unto, this is important, like unto God, which is Jesus. "And he said unto those who were with him, We will go down, for there is space there, and we will take of these materials, and we will make an earth whereon these may dwell." So you have somebody that's like unto God, that we know to be Jehovah, and he says, "Hey, there's some space down there. Let's grab these materials," and he's talking to his comrades, and we'll make an earth whereon these may dwell. So clearly Jehovah's the lead creator in this process. Verse 25, and this is Jehovah still speaking, and he said, "And we will prove them herewith to see if they will do all things whatsoever the Lord their God shall command them." So he's like, hey, there's space down there. We'll create this world, this earth, and then we will send these spirits there and we will test them. Now, I'm going to skip verse 26. I'll do a whole video on verse 26. It is so misunderstood. We do not understand the third part versus the 2/3, and I'm going to explain that. I want to get through Revelation before I do that. I'm going to jump to 27. Verse 27 says, "And the Lord," who's the Lord? Well, it's Jehovah. He's still speaking, said, "Whom shall I send?" Oh my goodness. So what you're telling me is that Jehovah said, "Whom shall I send?" If Jehovah is Jesus, oh my gosh, we have something that goes against the narrative here. So the Lord said, "Whom shall I send?" And one answered, "Like unto the Son of Man." We see that same phraseology in Revelation chapter 1, verse 13. One like unto the Son of Man. And the one like unto the Son of Man said, "Here am I, send me." Who could be the most like unto the Son of Man? If the Son of Man is Jesus, who's the most like unto him? I suggest probably his son. And who's his son? The third member of the Godhead. That's right, the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost says, "Hey, here am I, send me." And another answered and said, "Here am I, send me." We understand that to be Lucifer. That's what we understand. Doesn't say that it's Lucifer. That's what we believe it to be. But there's another one that says, no, here am I, send me. And the Lord said, "I will send the first." Verse 28. So the Lord said, "I'm going to send the Holy Ghost." Verse 28. And the second was angry and kept not his first estate. And at that day many followed after him. So we have a situation here that goes against the narrative. And if you just read this, don't try to do these mental gymnastics, just read what it says. The one like unto God, well, that's Jehovah. And the one like unto the Son of Man, well, that's the Holy Ghost. So the true narrative is this. The Holy Ghost and Lucifer were vying for the job as the third member of the Godhead, as the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost likely said, "Hey, let's give them agency, and what we'll do," the Holy Ghost, not what I'll do, what we'll do, because it takes a whole team. What we'll do is we'll go down and do the best job we can to influence them to make the right choice when faced with decisions and agency. And the other was like, "I just want to take away agency and I'll bring them all back home." But the Holy Ghost knew that it is better for them to have agency, better for them to make mistakes, to have sin, and then to learn from that. And as long as Jehovah would pay the ultimate price, which was the atonement, it would all work out in the end. Now, that's just what it says. Go and get your book of Abraham, read it, study it, pray about it, figure this out. But what it's time that we start doing is waking up to not what the narrative is, but to what the words actually say.